So yeah, 100%. I'm glad you touched on the fact that small business is a world on its own. We both came through mid-tier firms, and part of the reason I left a mid-tier firm was I looked at the client base and it just I didn't connect with these people. When I grew up, I looked at small business owners as the heroes, and I used to look up to in year 9 we had a horrendous I did business studies, horrendous class. We went to public schools, and all we did was watch The Apprentice when Donald Trump was on The Apprentice back in the day. And I just looked up to the business owners. I was fascinated by business. But when you're in corporate, it was high net worth individuals, people who'd already made their money, versus you go into this small business environment where it is just a different ball game. And like you said, you go from a corporate firm, mid-tier firm, where I have admin doing my FinPack letters. I have a team that literally just goes in and creates company structures and trust structures. You go into the business world and you are the business, like you are everything. You're the one setting up the company constitution. You're the one doing the engagement letter. You're the ones sending out the FinPack letters, ASCII, everything. So just that experience, and I always say this, a small business accountant is so different to a mid-tier accountant, and you learn so much more about the small business when you're in the space. And even furthermore, growing your own small business, I'm sure as a business owner, you learnt a lot that you can then advise your clients on how to get those. So going through that risk profile of, okay, make sure when you start out, naturally you're going to take on a bit more risk because you are that younger, naive, but it's positive in itself, right? Like you wouldn't take away that naivety for the world, because if you knew what business was genuinely like as you look back, you may have never started the business to start off with. So there is an element of that naivety that actually helps you. No, it's a different world, the small business world, and I'm glad we're in it, and I love it, and it's brought so much more joy to my life seeing small business owners grow and their families grow, and we were able to be a part of that journey, as opposed to the mid-tier client who the high net worth probably knows. We talk about this a lot as well, in that we, having built small businesses and having advised hundreds and probably even thousands of small businesses, we know the journey, we've walked the path. So it's easy to give advice when I know the problem. I've seen that problem, I've solved it in my own business.
Yep.
Versus the high net worth. I don't know what it's like to be worth $20 million.
The thing for me, it hits home, right? My dad was a small business owner in taxis and trucks and things like that. And what I found once I was in the mid-tier, I'm like, there's a certain level of business, there's a certain echelon where they have access to help, to advice, to systems, processes that people that are really in small business can't afford or don't have access to. And it hit home for me because when my dad's taxi business failed, we lost everything in a sense. We didn't lose what mattered. We still had each other, and that was important. But my dad lost his house, and business failed, and had to go through all that. And when I look back on that, I'm like, oh, that was avoidable, right? So I look back at that experience of losing family home for small, as a result of small business failure, and I'm like, there's a gap there, and there's a need there where we need to work with small business owners so they're structuring things properly, so that their kids don't have to go through the trauma of, oh man, my parents are fighting about money, mums and dads losing their homes because businesses are failing. Like, there's so much that can be done. And the need is so big. I only heard like recently that ATO is now going after its debt book, which is, I think, is 56 billion or something. 2/3 of that is small businesses, right? So who's in financial distress most of the time? Who's at risk of losing their homes? Now the interest rates have gone up, 300% on, from 2% to 6%. Yeah. Who are the people struggling? Who are the people who need advice? It's small business owners. And it's like there's a little boy inside me who's like, man, remembering what it was like, my dad having to sell the house and going through all that trauma and stress and bankruptcy and all those things. And it's like, I want to help that kid, and I want to help, that my dad and my mum and my family in that situation. And the way I can help them, I can't go back in time, but I want to help families now to have that access, that mid-tier corporates have access to that sort of level of service and expertise.